Hello and welcome to the latest Capital and Kayfabe. I'm your co-host, JP Jumposh, from the Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the political pundit, the author, journalist, the wrestling historian himself, Mr. Jack Hunter. Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm in Jacksonville, a little bit of a different background today, where I just watched AEW Dynamite, the Title Tuesday version. I really enjoyed the show.
I love that you went down there for that. Is that a far drive for you? Is that a far trip?
It's a little under 4 hours. It's my girlfriend's 40th birthday, and I wanted to do something big. We're both huge wrestling fans. We live and breathe this stuff, which is part of why you and I are doing this podcast. But I thought it'd be a good present, and she seemed to really be enjoying it so far, as have I.
Nice, very cool. And that venue, right? It's awesome at Daly's Place.
Yeah, it's fun. It's quaint. It's the right size for what AEW is trying to do business model wise right now. I think it was about 3,000 people there last night, according to WrestleTix, which is, I don't know what the capacity is there, but it's smaller. For those who watched AEW during COVID, they had some shows at Cody's Nightmare Factory, but the overwhelming majority were at Daly's Place with no fans and some fans. And I was at Double or Nothing, and I think it was 2022. It was the first big show after, the COVID pandemic ended and we started acting normal again. I think that's what that was. So a couple times at Daly's Place. I actually took my picture in the bathroom with Dave LaGreca at that show, which you're never supposed to do. Don't approach people in the bathroom. But we were in line and just standing there, and what the hell? He was a nice guy.
Nice, very cool. So let's stick on AEW for a second. Let's not even go politics, but there's going to be a politics spin on this because obviously there is a little bit of heat going on with HBO Max or WBD, if you will. Basically, Hangman Adam Page, the AEW World Champion, is telling people that he doesn't like the ICE commercials, obviously the government agency ICE, and there's some anti-ICE movement here, but he's saying, and he's putting the contact info for WBD out there, he's saying to the fans, complain to the people that pay us for the show and complain we don't want these commercials on our AEW air. Basically kind of ripping the people that air AEW and saying to the fans, either maybe not really not to watch the show per se, but to complain to them and tell them to take the ICE commercials off. So what do you think about that? Is he getting too political? Should he do that? And is that going to create maybe some animosity with WBD?
I don't think it's a question of becoming too political, and I respect that Tony Khan lets the people who work for them express themselves no matter where they're coming from. I think it might be a matter of being unprofessional. And let me explain what I mean by that. As I just said, I like whether you're right wing, left wing, in the middle, no wing. That Tony's like, hey, you're people outside of this, and that's part of who you are, and express yourself. Punk would wear, pro-choice, T-shirts and all sorts of, support trans kids or whatever Punk was wearing. And whether you agree or disagree with that, that's the point. It's free speech. He lets them express themselves. When you were telling the fans of your product, which Hangman was doing with his ICE tweets, to protest or boycott or harass or call the platform that your program is on, I think that's a little bit of a different thing. And look, right. The immigration issue itself, I didn't vote for Trump the first two times because I didn't like how he talked about immigrants. That was a big sticking point for me, among other things. But we're in a situation where the Biden administration just did not give a damn about border security. It was wide open. Like, it was a nightmare. If you look at Latino polling around the border areas, those people are all about immigration enforcement, high numbers. Like, this is not a ethnic thing. So you go from that extreme of like, we're the federal government, this is our job, and we just don't care. I'm Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we don't care. And then the American people see that, they're like, we don't want that, they vote for Trump. And you could say that ICE and Trump's policies are ham-fisted and maybe go too far, and I actually think they do. But what do you want? You had one extreme in one direction where it's completely open borders and chaos, and then you go in the other direction to try to fix it, and polling shows most Americans like this. However Hangman feels about ICE and some progressive people in the United States, I might actually agree with some of those criticisms of how some of this has been handled. But who cares what I think, Hangman thinks, you think? You don't undermine the platform that gives you a job at the work you're at. That's a whole different thing. I think he's wrong. I don't know if Tony's just letting him do this. I don't know if Tony's heard from HBO about this or what that looks like. But I wouldn't have done that no matter how I felt. That was my first thought when I saw him doing this. I'm like, whoa, you can't. I'm trying to think of some sort of parallel example of this. But yeah, I think he's wrong to do that. It's not about the issue. It's about who you are, what you do, and what you're undermining, and undermining your boss who's given you so much.
So ICE is hiring, and that's what these commercials are saying that, hey, we're basically doing job recruitment. We're doing commercials on TV, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever it is, but they're airing on AEW TV, and obviously a lot of their fan base does not like that. So they were kind of complaining on Twitter and X and everything else, and wherever, Instagram, TikTok, wherever, they were complaining about it. So he put a message on Big Sky and X or wherever he is platform. I think it was almost 100% was Big Sky, but put it out there. Here's who to contact to complain to. So not only is he saying to complain, he's giving them the information. So if you're working for WBD, executive, and you see this, you're like, what? This guy works technically for a company that we're paying millions of dollars, $185 million a year to, like this, and they're telling them to complain to one of our advertisers? Oof, iffy.
Yeah, and Hangman's one of my favorite wrestlers. He's the champ. I'm a big fan as a wrestling fan. As somebody who gives his political opinion for a living, talking about myself, he's a contemporary or current American lefty, and there are limits. Now, I'm not talking about speech, but whatever you believe, there are limits to just basic professional or normal behavior. So like whether you're right or left or whatever, it's not okay to be a lefty and be all right that the Biden administration went to Twitter and Facebook and forced them to censor people. I don't know many Democrats that are upset about that. They think that's okay. They get upset about Jimmy Kimmel, who nothing happened to, is back in 5 days. That's right. The end of the world. But it is not okay for political assassinations. I'm not speaking for Hangman, but I would not be shocked to learn if he, just like so many other Democratic voters in this country, weren't that mad about the Charlie Kirk assassination. I've seen it. I've seen it in mass. That we're in scary places. Those two examples. This too, however you feel about ICE, and I have criticisms of them and some of these policies as well. If I worked for, I don't know, AT&T, and they did something advertising wise I didn't like, I wouldn't go be like, hey, harass my boss for this. There's lines. The political assassination thing is worse than what I'm talking about here. We're talking about, but that's where we're at. And it's rampant on the left. Just basic liberal precepts. I'm for free speech. Do this. You don't undermine the boss. You don't cheer for political assassination. You don't decide that the First Amendment doesn't matter because your political opponents are getting punished. So, but that's where we're at. I wasn't shocked at all to see this from Hangman knowing his politics and thought it was immediately wrong.
Oof, awful. Not his part. I just think I've seen some bad stuff from ICE too. So I'm not saying, oh, ICE is great or anything like that. I've seen some horrible stuff in the way they handle stuff. And even some of the people that were calling ICE, like having the illegal work for them and then call so they didn't have to pay the illegals. I've seen some horrible treatment and some horrible things. But for Page to do this, way out of line. And to be honest, the anxious millennial cowboy, that gimmick, that doesn't work for me, brother. I just don't like the gimmick, but apparently it's legit. That's not even a gimmick. That's who he is. So crazy.
That's not cowboy-esque. That's that's not cowboyish. That's baby stuff, I guess. I mean, it's crybaby stuff. Yeah. Baby ass.
Yeah. Baby poop. Yes.
Right.
Man, the other thing is like, okay, I'm kind of getting ICE fatigue. It's like we're now constantly people are posting about it and all this other stuff, and obviously it's not going away because with the big beautiful bill, they ended up giving more money to them. And there would be more ICE officers, right? I mean, so it's not going away.
Yeah, I mean, like Joe Rogan criticized Trump's ICE policies. I guess they showed up at like Home Depot or something, rounding up people. Like that sounds to me. And Joe Rogan said that. Joe Rogan's not somebody who's reflexively against Trump. He endorsed Trump. Like, so there's valid criticisms to be had. But I also bet if you sat down with Joe Rogan, he wouldn't think, and he knew the context of this, he wouldn't think that Hangman thing was cool that he did about ICE, because he's a reasonable, rational person. He's not so caught up in ideology that those basic norms and standards that I was just talking about are going to go by the wayside. He was outraged that people would celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination, talking about Joe Rogan. So, yeah.
So I definitely have ICE fatigue, but I also have Israel fatigue. Is that a real thing? Because it seems like it's just everybody's talking about Israel. It's too much.
Well, we just passed the anniversary of October 7th, which was the Hamas attack on Israel, which was absolutely horrifying. So, the pro-Israeli people who just turned a blind eye to the genocide going on in Gaza, they were still acting like that didn't happen. I saw Mark Levin saying the IDF, the Israeli government or military, is not killing women and children in Gaza because we don't have film reels like we had with the Holocaust. I guess he hasn't been on the internet where there are 8,000 different pictures of dead children and horrific things happening. Israel fatigue, yeah, I've got it too, but like we brought it on ourselves. Our government is funding this stuff. We're taxpayers. I've been talking out against this till I'm blue in the face. I don't know, if I see, stupid Van Jones was on Bill Maher last weekend. Some time has passed by the time this airs, talking about dead Gazan babies flippantly. He was saying that people have a kind of what Mark Levin was saying. They have a misperception about what's really going on in Gaza because they see this is their feed, their TikTok feed, dead Gazan babies, dead Gazan babies, dead Gazan babies, Diddy. And that got a chuckle from the audience. And myself, and certainly people more important and high profile than me, were outraged that he would joke about something like that. That's where we are. That's part of that Israel fatigue, though, John. I'm sorry to say. I wish that was a country in another part of the world that we were friendly with and we had nothing to do with financially or militarily or ethically, but that's not the case.
It's just it's out of control. Then, like the Charlie Kirk stuff with Israel. I mean, it's almost like can we move on? Can we talk about something else? Can we do something else?
Now, the Charlie Kirk surf stuff with Charlie Kirk, I can't talk, was in particular, after he was assassinated, I kind of hated Candace Owens and others, like, oh, he was going to turn Catholic, and his evangelical supporters like, oh no, he wasn't. I'm like, a man just died. Is that what this is about? That was my first thing, but Candace said that the things that Charlie Kirk was saying sounded like he was going in that direction, and more importantly, being critical of Israel. That was the big thing. And the pro-Israel, neocon-tinged people, Josh Hammer and others, were like, no, he was, evangelical, pro-Israel, who doesn't care if there's dead Gazan babies, as Van Jones said. That's not what they said, but that's essentially what they're saying. And then Candace Owens just recently showed that text messaging thread with a bunch of these people in it. Yep. And Charlie Kirk saying, I'm leaving the pro-Israel cause. And it's not that he didn't love Israel, support them, but the killing, the mass killing, he couldn't get behind, and the lying about it, and all sorts of things. But his own producer for his show has confirmed that Candace Owens is correct, that those are legit texts. So there's some more Israel fatigue for you there.
Yeah, Candace Owens is going crazy about it. But it's interesting. You got some other people saying not to trust Candace Owens, not to trust Tucker. So it's kind of like NWO style. You don't know who to believe, bro. You don't know who to trust out there.
I trust the people that the people I don't trust don't want me to trust. I'm not saying they're always right. I'm not saying I wholesale agree or believe everything they're saying, but I believe Tucker Carlson. There's some things I don't like about Candace Owens, but I think she's right about this and some other things. Joe Rogan, we were talking about. I believe those people. That's the side. I don't believe the neoconservatives, which would be your Josh Hammer, your Ben Shapiro, your Mark Levin. They're all liars. They still think the Iraq war was a good idea and we should do it all over again. I don't trust those people. They're maniacs, in my opinion. They're not insane, but they're maniacs. They're moral rationale. Oh, there's no bloodshed in Gaza. Oh, Iraq went great. We should invade again. Yeah, I'm not listening to those people. I'm listening to people like Tucker Carlson who are like, y'all are crazy. We should never do any of that again. And there is a lot of killing going on right now in a part of the world, and the U.S. is funding it.
Do you think Trump is too supportive of Israel? I know he sent that message to Hamas and everything else, and a lot of people are saying Israel's controlling the U.S. media. Now they're controlling the U.S. government. Do you think Trump is too supportive?
I am disappointed in how Trump has handled this, but also Trump, he does this thing where, hey, I'm on board, Israel. I'll do this. I'll do that. Oh, here's this peace deal. And Netanyahu didn't like it. He's like, straighten up, buddy. This is good. Like he does that. He'll go one side to the other real quick. That's part of his negotiating tactics. So I'm not mad at that. If it brings a peace, the people stop dying, and it's some kind of end to this, I'm not mad at it in the end. But when Steve Witkoff went there on week 2 of Trump's second term and told Bibi to knock it off and there was a ceasefire, I wanted more of that. But instead it went back to killing all these innocent women and children at our expense. So,
and it seems like they want to pay influencers $7,000.
Yeah.
I know you had written about it. That's crazy. What? Like, what in the world?
That shows you how desperate they are. It also shows you how much they understand that social media is the influence. They can have all these pro-Israel, genocide apologists on CNN. Barry Weiss is now the head of CBS News. All that legacy media doesn't matter. People don't listen to them. They know they listen to social media influencers, and they're willing to pay them $7,000 just to be pro-Israel. They could pay them $10,000. It's not going to work. Like, the Holocaust happened, and the world had to grapple with that at some point. This is not as many people as that, but it's a lot of people, and they are dying. It is a systematic genocide carried out by the state of Israel. And 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to learn about it in the history books and be like, God, how did anybody tolerate that? And look at the ones who are tolerating it right now or even cheering it. So, yeah.
Crazy though, 7,000 per post. Hey, I'm over here. Hey, but that's just absolutely insane.
I couldn't do it morally, and 7,000.
I know, yeah.
But
But people will. They will.
Yeah, and if they don't know that much about it or whatever, I guess I'm not mad at that. That's a lot of people. That's the function of the U.S. legacy media, is to not let people know. Part of why the Vietnam War ended is Americans saw too many body bags on the television sets, and after that, the networks just decided, hey, we're not going to show that anymore. So,
right, and just like crazy, like we cared so much about the Holocaust that we took von Brunner, who was this Nazi guy, and he created NASA. Like that's how much we like. It's so iffy. Like everything we're doing and we're about it, just like we'll sell out to this person, sell it to the Saudi. You know what I mean? Like it's what a crazy world. It's all about the money.
Yeah, and the Saudi Arabia thing. I've written about this actually. Like, they're killing people in Yemen, and we pay for it. We have good relations with them. These wealthy Saudi people, just been going on for years. I like that the WWE goes over there because I think the cultural exchange is helpful to the culture of Saudi Arabia. For example, I think the first time WWE went there, women couldn't even be at the shows. And then the next time they went there, they could be there, but they had to be accompanied by men. And about 5 or 6 shows later, women could drive to the show by themselves or just drive, period. And then there were women wrestlers on the thing. My friend that works for the WWE said that when he would do meet and greets over there, that the Saudi citizens will come up and say, please keep coming. You're helping. So I'm not mad at that. Do I think that the people in charge at TKO are just getting the money and don't really care about that? Yeah. And you can criticize that. The comedian Shane Gillis was just offered something by the Saudis to go perform over there, and he wouldn't take it based on moral reasons. So I get that. The Yemen thing is what bothers me. That anytime our money is going to other countries just killing innocent people, I don't like that. Not that they're all innocent, but there's women and children had nothing to do with the politics of this who are dying because of our money and their actions. But as far as the cultural exchange, like I'm all against the Cuban embargo. We want trade. The reason Vietnam, the Vietnam War ended, we sure as hell didn't win, but we've had trade with them ever since, and things are a hell of a lot better from a free market capitalistic democratic perspective than they were in the past. So I'm always for that exchange of ideas and goods with Vietnam, with Cuba, with Saudi Arabia, with China, whatever. That's always a good thing. But yeah, I might have got off on a tangent there. I don't know.
I love it. I love when that happens. So what is the latest, though, on the government shutdown, though? What's the latest? What's going on? Anything moving in a positive direction or no?
Republicans have tried to override the 60 votes needed or whatever in the Senate, and the Democrats shot it down. Basically, we're still shut down because Democrats think it's bad that we would reject illegal aliens getting health benefits. And they will say that's not what they're doing, and they're full of it. That's what's going on. I'm a libertarian, so I'm not so mad at the government shutdown. I think it should remain shut down. My life's not changed. That said, I have friends who work for the federal government who are worried, and I feel for them as my friends. As somebody who thinks the federal government should be much smaller, I still stand by what I said before that. So I don't know. I guess the Republicans can either override the Democrats, or the Democrats could finally agree to their stopgap spending measure. Notice I said that stopgap spending measure. This is the continuing resolutions kicking the can down the road. Rand Paul's voting against all of this because it adds to the debt, and he's right. So I don't know. I will note that government shutdowns in the past that were the fault of Republicans were treated in the media like, oh, this is the end of the world. Look at these irresponsible Republicans. I can't believe it. Look at how evil they are. And this one doesn't getting as much attention as those. Why? Because it's the Democrats doing it. It is the Schumer shutdown, the Chuck Schumer shutdown.
And will they get back pay? Because I was reading they're possibly not going to get back pay.
You suspected they were, and I read the same thing you were, that they weren't, and people start getting fired. Look, and some of these people are friends of mine. Like, maybe you have to find a job in the private sector. We can't afford any of this anymore. Forget the current controversy. Like, yeah, this is going to hit the wall at some point. When the Tea Party movements were, hell, let's go back further. Reagan, I think, was upset about a $1 trillion national debt when he was talking about small government in the 80s. When the Tea Party movements were happening around 2008 to 2012 in America, the national debt was about $10 trillion. We were worried about that. It's at $37 trillion here in 2025. You do that math and that trajectory. Where are we going to be in 35? 50, 60 trillion? Will it get that far? So people stop getting Social Security. I mean, what are we talking about? So trust the libertarians. They're the only sane people on this. Something needs to change drastically.
Crazy thing is, though, some of the stuff that Senator Kennedy was reading the other day, like that they won't budge on for some reason, and some of it was like the most ridiculous, again, kind of going back to Doge too, with some of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard, and they won't budge on it. It's like what in the world? Like, and he was making fun of AOC about it, saying what a nut she is, and she wanted some LGBTQ thing in like Yemen or something. It doesn't even make sense. What is all that stuff?
Like trans education in Afghanistan or something like that.
Yep.
Trans people would actually get stoned to death. People didn't vote for that. That is identity politics, woke BS that was thrown into some other bill that everybody did vote for, and it just becomes part of the furniture of Washington. And John Kennedy was picking out the senator. My ex-boss, former boss, Senator Rand Paul, every year releases his Festivus report, which is, takeoff on Seinfeld, that is full of just like, gay education for minors in Canada or something, just stupid stuff. That all should be cut to anybody with any kind of brain. Democrats defend it because they're the party of identity politics, and they just defend all that kind of stuff without questioning much at all. They don't care about the working class, things they used to care about, unions. They care about that stuff. So that's how you see that.
Doesn't that come off like a money laundering scam, though? It's like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, we're giving this money. Like, that doesn't even make sense. I don't even know what that is. And then, like, where does that money go? It's like, wait, what the hell's going on here?
It's just like U.S. aid. U.S. aid is used as leverage to force countries to do stuff that our CIA, our intelligence, wants them to do. That's all it is. But when we cut it, what do Democrats say? Oh, all these people are going to go hungry and all this kind of stuff. And that's what they say about these programs, too. Not an inch, not a sliver of government can be cut, according to Democrats. Hence the shutdown right now. This argument is over. Democrats say if you're an illegal alien in the United States, you deserve health care benefits. Any normal person is like, what? Nope. So that goes in line with the trans education in Tijuana or whatever the hell it is, but stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
So weird. It's just like, man, and it's so obvious that it's so crooked. It's like ridiculous. Like, and nobody, and just because of the identity politics going on, nobody cares to say anything, and they don't care to make the changes that are necessary to cut this crap.
Right. It's completely bizarre. There's no defending it on any rational level. A Democratic voter 15 years ago would have thought this was as crazy as their contemporaries don't. So
Yep. It's weird, like the real true old school Democrats are like basically in the middle. You know what I mean? They're like almost all in the middle now.
Or they're right wing.
Or right wing, yeah.
Elon Musk and Joe Rogan have not changed their politics really at all. And they're considered right. I mean, Joe Rogan was a Bernie bro. They're on the right because they're like, free speech is good. Maybe we shouldn't cut off minors' genitals, like stuff like that. And people are like, oh, they're right wing now. That's where I mean, that's where we're at. They haven't changed. That's how extreme the left has become. Bernie Sanders, a number of years ago, I think it was probably before the Biden election, warned the Democrats, and he's not a Democrat, he's an independent, but obviously caucuses and is right there with the Democratic Party. But Bernie Sanders warned the Democrats, this identity politics stuff is terrible, it's horrible, it's bad branding for our party. Let's talk about working class people again. Let's talk about better jobs and industry, stuff like that. Pro-choice even, whatever. Basic, standard Democrat stuff. And Democrats basically said, F you, Bernie, we're about rainbow flags and transgender this and all this identity politics stuff. It's not the content of our character that matters. It is the color of our skin and where we like to stick our genitals and whether we want to have them or not. That's the Democrats basically told Bernie that's what we're about. Then 2024 election happened and Trump won again. People are tired of that crap. There are other factors, but they're tired of that. And what did Bernie do? He said, I told you. He said, I told you, dumbasses. He didn't say it that way. I wrote about it, but he was right then and he's right now. And good God, do I disagree with Bernie Sanders on most things. I'm a libertarian and he's a socialist, but he's old enough to know better and he's not stupid and he's right about that.
Crazy world. As far as January 6th is concerned, anything more about the quote unquote real story going on? The 274 agents, they were doing nefarious things. Like any latest on this? Any movement on this? They're
going to have hearings and we'll see what happens. All the outrages from the right. Not a single soul that was upset about Jimmy Kimmel being off the air for 5 days is like, oh my God, this is terrible. The government would abuse, would try to weaponize the CIA and start a riot on the Capitol Hill. Yep. The same thing as these 7 Republican senators that were spied on by Jack Smith for J6. This is the Biden administration, collecting their phone data and listening to their phone calls. Completely unconstitutional, illegal, abuse of power, the pure definition of the weaponization of government. Not a single Democrat that was upset about Jimmy Kimmel is worried about that. Which is why when they were worried about Jimmy Kimmel, people like me laughed at them and will laugh every time they do that. They are not to be taken seriously.
That is crazy. Like the spying and stuff, like, let's turn a blind eye to it. Like,
right.
Well, really? Really? We're going to turn a blind eye to it? Like, oh, no, it's legal. I don't know if that's legal. I don't think you can spy on somebody that didn't commit a crime.
Every single thing that Democrat, and I'm not a Mr. Trumpkin. We could do a whole podcast about the things I have a problem with the current president. Every single thing that Democrats said, Trump cannot win again because he'll be an authoritarian, and here's why. He will censor speech. He will, abuse, weaponize the government and abuse his power and these authoritarian things. Every single one of them, the Biden administration did. On the immigration front with like ICE, you'd have to go back to Obama because Biden didn't really do anything. But Obama was named the deporter in chief by many progressives for a reason. But Democrats have done every single thing, and especially Biden in his one and only term, that they warned Trump would do, and it would be authoritarian, it would be bad. The rule with Democrats is if Democratic presidents do it, if Joe Biden does it, it's not authoritarian. It's okay. That's their rule.
How come they weren't upset when Obama did it, who deported way more people?
See, Trump is a boogeyman. If Trump saves puppies drowning in a lake, that's bad because he's Trump. I'm a Democrat. I'm against Trump. If Obama is the deporter in chief and is rounding up illegal aliens and deporting like no other president, at the time, that's okay because he's not Trump. He's not the Republican Mitt Romney or John McCain that we defeated. He's Obama. So we're going to ignore that, and that's good. That's how that works. It's wrestling. It's heels and faces.
Man, just what a wild world, too, because I've seen a lot of people turning on Trump like, oh, he's making money off this, making money off that. But if Biden did it, oh, no, that's okay. And it's okay that, Hunter Biden's making money. Oh, it's okay. And like weird. What works for the goose doesn't work for the gander, I guess,
Partisan politics has always been that way, but it's the loss of norms and standards of just basic co-understanding of what's moral that we're losing. And it's the Democrats that are doing it. I'm not saying the Republicans and MAGA are not guilty of, the Capitol Hill riot on January 6th was awful. Like, what the hell was that? What are we doing here?
Yeah,
but like the idea that censorship is good, which most Democrats thought in the Biden era and only have rethought it because Trump's president now. The idea that political assassinations are somewhere between, well, he was asking for it or good, I didn't like him, which many Democrats have some views in between that. The idea that that's okay, who are we debating with and voting with in elections? Like, what is that?
It's just wacky to me. It's like, wait a second. Now he got caught spying, got caught this, got caught, like all that. But like, nope, we don't care about any of that. And then, hey, you guys did this worse with ICE and deporting guys. Like, nope, we don't care about that. It's very strange way to react.
You remember the AOC crying in front of the kids in cages and
Yeah, yeah.
all that stuff. That was during the Trump. That was an Obama policy.
Mm,
I didn't like it.
yep.
I don't like it. These kids who don't know what's going on, I don't like it either. But
No.
like, you didn't see her crying when Obama did it. You didn't see her crying when it continued under Biden. And part of that is a lot of the authorities are worried about they were, human trafficked and keeping them away from that. I would rather a kid be in a cage than with a human trafficker. So I don't know. I don't want to get too much in that policy, but I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy of people like AOC and those within her party.
Yep. And even a friend of mine, sometimes I read his tweets and stuff, and I just laugh. He was saying like the process of becoming a legal here to the States is too long and too arduous. Like it's better to be an illegal immigrant. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it or the right way to go about it, but
that's not the right way to frame it. And so this is what I would say. If I was a poor person with few options living in Mexico, especially if I had a family, I might try to come here illegally if that's the better option. I'm not mad at them for that.
Right.
Our legal system is very difficult. I have two friends, one from Russia and one from Great Britain, who these are people with means, for lawyers and things like that. And they caught hell doing it. This is people who pose no threat to the United States. But at the same time, you can't have rampant drug trafficking and human trafficking and an open border. You have to have some sort of border security. I feel sorry for the poor people caught up in this. I don't like the dehumanization or demonization of immigrants, legal or otherwise. I don't like that because they're human beings. But you have to have border security. Biden wanted it to be wide open, and it was. And Trump's probably gone in the extreme in the other direction. But both sides have a point. I'm somewhere in the middle on that, but that's not where anybody is. Or there are a lot of people are, but that's not where the policies are. It's been one or the other.
His reasoning, I guess, was, hey, Biden was so bad and letting all these criminals and everything else. Like, I have to go the exact opposite to kind of even everything out.
Yeah, and like I said, if you look at the polling of American citizens, Latino, white, black, whatever, that live around border areas, that have to deal with this in a real way, the polling is very much in favor of enforcement. So me sitting in Charleston, South Carolina, or Jacksonville, Florida right now, where there's legal immigrants around, but you're not dealing with like the flow. And, people running through your backyard and whatever, throwing babies over fences and stuff like that. That's a different sort of thing. And if they're liking what they're seeing, I have to take that to account. I would encourage most Americans to do the same.
So let's talk a little bit different. Let's talk a little wrestling here. Did you happen to catch well, I know you caught it, but it's just interesting, though, the return of Andrade and obviously his return. Did that surprise you at all? Because that shocked me because I thought he was in bad terms with Tony Khan and AEW.
Well, I did too. So a couple things there. And as we're saying this, we just learned that Santos Escobar was released from WWE, but then was re-signed today. I don't know if you saw that. I guess they negotiated a deal. We'll maybe get to that in a second because we're talking about Latino stars in major American companies. Andrade, the story I heard and believed as many wrestling fans is that he was just aching to get out of AEW when he was there and get to WWE. And that was understandable. Yes. He was married to Charlotte at the time, his wife, and, he'd been in WWE before, whatever. And my understanding is he was just like pitching a fit and being a baby about it. And Tony eventually let him go, even though Tony said, we wish him well and it was good. That's what he said at the time at one of those pressers. So we see him in WWE. We learned that he ghosted, or we were reported that he ghosted the company, which you can't do, and that he was fired. So there was no non-compete, which is how he popped up in AEW so quickly. So Dave Meltzer, who I like and listen to and will continue to, said something to the effect of he couldn't believe that Tony Khan rehired him based on how badly he had departed. And Andrade El Idolo basically tweeted at Meltzer, "You don't know what you're talking about. I went to Tony Khan like a man and asked for my release, and he granted it." But what did Tony Khan reportedly tell the staff when Andrade was rehired is Andrade left the right way. So I'm more inclined to believe Andrade, who's the subject of this conversation, and his employer, who's also part of this conversation, over the Meltzer report. And I say that understanding that these reports come from Meltzer or any of these other reporters having sources within the industry who are paid. This is also the wrestling business where people lie for a living.
Yep.
Would you tell a juicier story than what happened because you're going to get paid for it? And why not? I'm speculating. I don't know. I'm another guy talking like anybody else. But learning that, I wasn't as surprised. The biggest surprise to be would if he goes to WWE, why would you hire him for your company? If, like, they would treat them like that, why would you? But maybe that's not entirely true either. I don't know. What do you think? And by the way, the reason I mentioned Santos Escobar, with WWE owning AAA and AEW working so intimately with CMLL, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with Latino stars in your major American companies. And I've loved the WWE AAA shows. There's going to be another one, I think, October 25th. And I love the AEW CMLL stuff. So that's exciting as a fan.
Love the luchadors. I want more of them. You know what I mean? I can never get enough of them. Going back to WCW, I can never get enough of them. I just think it's interesting that, and this could be true too. It's like somebody behind the scenes at AEW could be an agent, could be a wrestler, could be somebody that Meltzer trusts and has been giving him good stories in the past that are truthful. Maybe they didn't like Andrade. So maybe you plant the seed, you plant the story, it sounds whatever, and then you try to source with somebody else. That person's like, yeah, I think that's what happened, and it kind of snowballs where that becomes the reality. Maybe just ask Tony Khan, and obviously you just ask Andrade, and they're both saying that's not true. So I think somebody kind of poisoned the well on Andrade. Somebody didn't like him there. That's what I think.
It could be didn't like him, or the information they had was also secondhand and it wasn't true to begin with. And then I've had things written about me around 2013 and a controversy that was involving me. There was a book written about it. McKay Coppins, who's a absolute liar and I don't know if he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, but he's an award-winning journalist, makes a lot more money than I do because he lies for a living. But he had stuff in that book that was flat out right, not true. I was there. It's about me, just lying. But his juicier story was better than what actually happened. And there's a book. So that's regular journalism. That book was featured in the New York Times and the Washington Post. So, this is a great book. Everybody should read it. It was about the 2016 presidential election. And the parts about me I knew were lies. And I sent them to other people. And they're like, yeah, this is BS. So if that happens there in political journalism, what are we talking about in the wrestling journalism world?
Yeah, 10 times worse. Yep, true. And back in the day, the Observer, you'd see all this positive stuff about Terry Taylor, how he's booking. I when I used to do the show with Kevin Sullivan, I flat out asked him, he's like, he was a stooge. He goes, he was the one that was giving off that info, whatever, to Meltzer. So Meltzer was taking it for granted, and and Sullivan was the one booking like the good stuff, and Taylor was just kind of there. So it's funny the way some of that stuff works out, and who kind of puts themselves over, put somebody else over, or put somebody else down to make the story more juicy.
That, and I'll say this, and I'm a fan of Dave Meltzer, especially Brian Alvarez.
Yeah, me too. Love Dave.
I like him. I continue to like him. All journalists in any field have their partisan feelings, like that happens. But I honestly think that Dave and the respectable ones with integrity, I put Sean Ross Sapp at the top of that list, care about sources and getting it right. And if they don't, they'll correct themselves. I think they care about that. They're not trying to lie. Do things come out that aren't always true because the sources were wrong or something? Yeah, but that's inherent in journalism. So don't overread this. It's too much heat on them.
The Andrade stuff, to be honest, and to be fair to Dave, totally believable and plausible. I mean, how many backstage fights did he get into? How much trouble? Like, how many issues did you keep hearing about? Like, so it was like, that's pretty believable, pretty plausible. So for Andrade to be so mad about it, it's like, dude, it's kind of was your MO for a period of time.
It was Andrade on brand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, crazy. So, obviously, AEW has Wrestle Dream coming up. WWE has Crown Jewel coming up. TNA, it's Bound for Glory coming up. And they got the TNA NXT Showdown, the Invasion, if you will. They got a lot of kind of good wrestling coming up.
I didn't see the NXT show yet as of this recording because we were Dynamite last night. We're going to watch that tonight after the Collision taping.
But what are you most looking forward to coming up? Bound for Glory, Wrestle Dream, or Crown Jewel?
Well, not seeing the NXT show. Crown Jewel. Well, let me put over Bound for Glory first. Mike Santana better win that world title from Trick Williams.
Should have won it the last time.
He should have won it the last time, but I want to see that. I want to see him win. I want to see him flourish, and I think that'll be a good boost for TNA. And I've loved Trick Williams as TNA champion. I thought it was a good move all around. Probably Crown Jewel because, I want to see Cena and AJ. And they revisited their backstory a little bit with vignettes on Raw and SmackDown. Most of those matches you can't predict on Crown Jewel. I don't have the card right in front of me. I was talking about this with my girlfriend on the way to Jacksonville. What are some of the matches I just mentioned? Seth and
Seth versus Cody Rhodes, champion versus
Cody.
champion.
I kind of want to say Seth should win that because it's always seen as Cody's world title is more important than Seth's, I think. And Seth needs to win that. Does it happen? I think Bronson Reed should win in Australia, but Roman's Roman. And does he win? And despite the fact that Bronson Reed's from Australia, Roman's going to get all the cheers. I don't know, but I like how it's kind of open-ended and it's not 100%. Sometimes you go into a show, you're like, this person's absolutely winning. This person's absolutely winning. Like when Lacey Lane, was Mercedes Moné's hidden open challenge on Dynamite, I knew Mercedes Moné was winning that match.
Yes.
The Crown Jewel show's not really like that, and I like that. That's good.
Kabuki Warriors versus Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. I feel like Kabuki Warriors here might go over here. Get some more heat, blow them up.
Yeah, and that doesn't hurt Rhea or Io one bit. Yeah. Like it's fine. Yeah, and it builds up the Kabuki Warriors. I don't know. It's exciting. I won't be watching it at 8 a.m. I can tell you that. I'll just stay off social media at 8 p.m., grab a beer, some chicken wings, and get started. So
even Stephanie Vaquer against Tiffany Stratton, no idea who's going to win.
No idea, and they both deserve the win. And I think if either lose, we're good. Like because that matters sometimes, The Dynamite show, Okada and Takeshita beat Brodito, not for the titles. They beat them to be number one contenders for Wrestle Dream. Brodito's fine; they're the world champions, and they got beat by who? Okada and Takeshita. Like that's pretty strong, They didn't get beat by the local jobbers or somebody. So, yeah.
Obviously, building up Takeshita versus Okada in a big match. That's going to be that's the biggie. So
Takeshita and Okada are not going to win at Wrestle Dream because they're going to get in each other's way, and that's going to be the bigger, better story. And Brodito get to have a cool, tag team retainment match with top names.
I'm just curious with that. I know maybe some people might not even realize who Okada and Takeshita are, but Okada basically one of, not the greatest Japanese wrestler of all time. Takeshita's on the up and coming, and kind of. I wonder if they work out a deal with New Japan and have that match at the Tokyo Dome or something. I just curious, kind of where that match finishes at.
They should do something like that. And if it's a give and take between AEW and New Japan, you got to give them something. I know AEW kind of has the leverage because New Japan really is hurting right now as far as star power and whatnot. I remember going in DC. When New Japan started doing their American shows, this was a couple years ago, but it was one of the first times Okada had wrestled in the U.S. Well, since he's been Okada, I ain't talking about the TNA stuff and all that, but since he's been a big deal and the Okada that we know, and he got in the ring at that New Japan show, he hadn't even touched his opponent, and people were going, holy yes, just because he was here.
Yeah.
And he's a star. I think that's been diminished a little bit in AEW. I don't know if that's anybody's fault. Maybe it is, but maybe kind of get back to that point. We need to see that Okada again.
Yeah, he was a way bigger draw. It felt like when he was in New Japan, just coming over here for Ring of Honor or coming over here for New Japan USA, I feel like he was a bigger draw for today.
Yeah.
He was on the AEW. It seems like he's been diminished a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't you see somebody a lot on your TV, maybe that's just something that happens, or maybe it was booking. I don't know. I'm not trying to point fingers, but it's definitely happened.
Feels like it happened with a lot. Like even Kenny Omega, it's one of the best, literally one of the best in the world. You'd say top 5 easy if you even want to go higher than that. But he's almost like diminished a little bit. It was almost like trying to get other guys over, but like, no, he's like he's your big guy. He's your big, like, get him. He should be the top of the team. He's your Cena, if you will. But
yeah. And once again, I don't know. So like Cody, toward the end of his AEW run, people were kind of done with him, and he goes to WWE and he's the face of the entire company.
Yeah.
Swerve Strickland, people liked him in WWE and were rooting for him, but the bookers didn't see it that way, or Vince McMahon more specifically. And boys, he flourished in AEW. Like it could go either way. Yeah.
It is weird too. Like the young bucks, I feel like I like them better now than their whole run in AEW. Like minus the Lucha Brothers stuff, because I love when they're feuding, and the FTR stuff. I mean, the match has been great, but I feel like the way they're booked is like now I kind of like the way they're booked. I didn't really like the way they were booked for 5 years.
I agree. And it's just one of those things. Look at Penta and Phoenix and what they're doing, and
yeah. Although you can now say that they're not really being booked as good as they were when they debuted, but I know you can kind of go back and forth with a lot of the booking of Tony and Triple H.
I think the person that beats Dominic for his mega AAA championship is going to be Penta.
It should be. Should
Yeah,
be, yes.
he's fighting Dragon Lee at their next AAA show, and I don't expect Dragon Lee to win. I expect it to be a good match. But Penta's the star. The only part is Dominic is such a face in Mexico.
Isn't that so weird? Like, yeah, and El Grande Americano, guys, supposed to be a heel. Like, what are you're cheering for this guy? Yeah.
Or is Jeff Jarrett going to have to come back and throw Taco Bell at the fans again? Or something to do?
Yes. Jarrett needs to wrestle in AEW. I don't know what they're doing. Remember they had that MJF feud and it just went by the wayside. What the hell happened with that? That was going so good too. I loved it.
I liked it. I like that Jarrett pretty much looks exactly as he always has and wrestles as he always has at his age.
And he wasn't hurt too because he was wrestling during that whole period where he stopped feuding with MJF. So it wasn't like he was injured.
Right. And what did he have his debut in like 1988 or something like that? Like,
I honestly think it was 85 or 86, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's been wrestling for 40 years. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And he looks better almost now physically.
Great shape. Same with Dustin Rhodes. Like, I think he looks better now than he ever has, even as a young man.
Man, Jarrett and Dustin, two of the best workers. And I don't care what anybody says, two of the best workers I've ever seen. They're both awesome. Dustin maybe kind of might be the most underappreciated wrestler ever, really, if you really think about it. He was awesome.
Are those Dustin of the Day things that Tony Khan put on the message boards? Can you still see that anywhere?
So this is interesting. That was actually done by Phil Schneider, great author. He did Way of the Blade. He writes for The Ringer, writes for a bunch of others. Actually, a buddy of mine, he ended up running the Action Dean show, which was the show after AEW Collision in Philly, which was Dean Rasmussen, who ran the Death Valley Driver board, all around getting to say Phil Schneider created the Dustin of the Day, and Tony is friends with Phil. He loved it. So Tony would almost like repost it or like support the post of that. So it was actually Phil that created it. And he created it because people on that message board, and I was on it, of course, was on it years ago. They would say that Triple H is better than Dustin. And he goes, oh yeah, I'm going to do a Dustin of the Day. I'm going to do like basically for a year, I'm going to show you how many better matches Dustin had than Triple H. I'm going to show you he was a better wrestler and a better worker. Man, he was pulling out some gems. I would go and I would watch it, be like Dustin versus Barbarian on Saturday night, and it was awesome, And I was like, man, he's right. So Tony introduced Phil to Dustin, and he told him, and Dustin loved it. He's like, that is so cool. That's awesome. I don't know if I'm revealing anything, but he might be working on something to put out about Dustin of the Day, which would be awesome. So
I would love to see this as somebody who's aware of the message boards because of people like you and my friend Dylan Hales and others. I would love to see that because this is like wrestling message board lore to me.
Yes. Oh, Dylan was on the commentary team for Action Dean there. So
yeah, absolutely. So small world in this world of wrestling we're in.
Yes. But that used to tickle me so much because I always thought it's like, man, I was like, he had an awesome match with Rude. He's got an awesome match with Vader, like just and not multiple. I mean, Rude, my God, they had like 100 good matches, but there's like Steve Austin, like just keep going. I'm like, why do people think? Oh, because he's Dusty's son. They figured it was nepotism, blah blah. It's like he is, and Dusty is one of my favorites. He was awesome. Dustin is 10 times better in the ring than Dusty. I mean, Dustin is unbelievable. Dustin's better than Cody in ring too.
Yeah, and it makes you think. Sort of the smart fans. Like focus on the Omegas and the Ospreys and, Tiger Mask back in the day or whatever. And just because those guys are cool and hip, so to speak, within that world, you ignore somebody like a Dustin Rhodes who's like stellar, but he doesn't get the same focus from the smart fans.
Yep.
I remember Arn Anderson on his own podcast with Conrad talking about how good Nikki Bella was at something. And just like it was unrecognized. And I was like, wow, I never thought about that. But I'm going to listen to Arn Anderson about it because he knows more than I. Stuff like that I don't think we think about it enough. I don't know that Dave Meltzer ever gave my friend Kane's career in matches many high marks, but one of the biggest stars of the Attitude Era, you think this could come, so.
And crowd reaction, like, okay, he's a big guy, he doesn't move as well. First of all, he does move really well for a big guy, but judging by crowd reactions, he would always, him versus Shane McMahon, you would think these matches sucked. The crowd was so into it. It was like, they were pumped.
Going crazy, and he moved great for a big man. I say that he's my friend. I thought that before I ever met the guy. But just examples of, I'd put Dave in that category. Smart fans, they focus on certain people while ignoring a lot just because it's the thing to do or mass psychology or whatever. I don't know.
Kane definitely underappreciated in the ring. It's not like he's Elegante or, John Gonzalez. That's like a guy like that. This guy is, moving around, jumping off the top rope and stuff. So, yes, he's a big man doing big man moves, but he was athletic as hell.
Yeah, all the old Crockett guys say that like Brad Armstrong was the greatest guy ever in the ring. And when I was a kid, I watched him. I'm like, yeah, he's good, but like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
apparently he's phenomenal. The people would know the most are the people who grappled with him or know what it's like. You know, but it's something people don't talk about.
Yeah, you know, but they're going nuts for JYD, who's not great in the ring. So it's like you got to kind of realize the crowd is very important.
The best example of that is Ultimate Warrior, who couldn't really do anything, but boy, was he over. And I'm not comparing these other wrestlers to them. They could wrestle,
right.
But like just saying that matters too. Hulk Hogan was no technician, at least not in the United States. If you watch his Japanese stuff, he actually does some stuff that you wouldn't believe.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. But that's not, who cares? Like, who cares? That's not what it was about.
But to be honest, Warrior, you're looking at this guy. If this guy's a proficient technical wrestler, like you're gonna be like, come on, he's a monster. Like, just clothesline the hell out of the guy. Like, you don't want to see a proficient technical Ultimate Warrior. You just want to see him have the charisma and just destroy people.
Right. That's all you want. Bad Bunny is a better professional wrestler than the Ultimate Warrior. And I say that for a reason. That's not saying much, but it wasn't about that. It didn't care.
Right.
I remember talking to an old friend one day that doesn't really watch wrestling, but he's one of those, I used to watch wrestling as a kid. And I'm like, well, who's the greatest wrestler of all time? Of course, I said Ric Flair. And he goes, oh, you're crazy. It's the Ultimate Warrior. Who's better than the Ultimate Warrior? And I just was like, you were right.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking for like the prototypical like 80s, 90s wrestler, like steroid guy, you know, monster, you don't really know what he's saying, but you love it. Like Warrior's like the perfect wrestler. Like he looks like, if you were drawing a picture, like, hey, draw me a pro wrestler, you'd probably draw like Warrior. Like, yeah, the guy would have face paint, the guy would have huge muscles, the guy would have long hair. Like, you're probably drawing a picture of Warrior, or maybe Sid or something. You know what I mean? Like a gigantic monster.
Yeah. That's exactly what you do. The rocket ship, muscles and hair and makeup and all that stuff.
By the way, somebody said to me, because I was joking around about last year's Super Bowl, and I said, literally, I have no idea who Lamar Kendrick is. And they're like, it's Kendrick Lamar. I'm like, well, whoever it is, I don't know who this guy is. I know nothing about him. Like, oh, he's so popular. They're like, well, you probably don't know who Bad Bunny is. I said, yes, I do. I was like, I actually like some of his music, and I love him. They're like, how do you know who that is? He's a Spanish, rapper, he's a singer. But I said, from pro wrestling. That's how I know. And I go, he's an actual awesome celebrity pro wrestler who actually like gave a shit. So that I do know Bad Bunny, and I am looking forward to Super Bowl.
Well, I didn't know who he was before the WWE stuff.
Yeah, me neither. Yep.
I went and looked it up, and I'm like, wow, this guy's a big deal. No wonder they're doing this. So
his entrance at Backlash when he fights Damian Priest, when he comes out to that Son Chapea, the pop, if you just listen, like without the announcer, you just listen to the pop, it is one of the loudest, best pops. He comes out with like a trash can. Like he's coming out with all the match, and his theme hits, and the crowd goes nuts. And I thought it was like a more recent song, but it's not as recent, but that's like the best song kind of. And the crowd just goes nuts. I was like, holy shit, like that is unbelievable. And it was for him wrestling, not for him singing, performing, blah, blah. It was for him wrestling Damian Priest. Awesome match too.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job. He really put in the work. I respect it. So, yeah.
Love me some Bad Bunny. I actually hope he returns to WWE, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I like Jelly Roll too, to be honest. So I thought that was
I
cool.
did too. I think he did great. Travis Scott, not so much. And what you heard is he didn't want to put in the work. He liked the idea, but didn't want to work on it. So good riddance.
Terrible. But let's wrap this bad boy up. Let's head towards the plugs. You follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2ManPowerTrip. How about you, Jack?
You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at JackHunter74. Anything I write, say, stupid jokes, you can find it all there.
All right. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you right back here next week for the Capital and Kayfabe.